In 3.5 years, President Biden has already installed more non white federal judges than any president in U.S. history. His slate of judges is already majority female, which is another first. Across the Supreme Court circuit and district courts, 65% of Trump's appointments are white men. Just 13% of Biden's Senate confirmed appointments so far are white men. Now, this is according to a analysis by the Washington Post of a self-reported race and ethnicity data form that was provided from the Federal Judicial Center. Prosecutors rested their case against Donald Trump today after another dramatic day of testimony from his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who admitted he conned Trump and his company out of money while also maintaining his former boss signed off on the hush money payment at the heart of the trial. Despite Trump's pre-trial claim he would absolutely testify in the case, the first criminal trial of a former president is likely to wrap up without the former president ever taking the witness stand. And President Joe Biden denounced as outrageous the International Criminal Court's announcement today that it is seeking to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders and charge them with war crimes and crimes against humanity. Biden said, and let me be clear, whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no equivalence, none, he said, between Israel and Hamas. An independent president candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., said in a speech yesterday that the U.S. president should be sit down with foreign adversaries for negotiations. He name-checked Russia's Vladimir Putin, China's Jinping, and former Iranian president, all who he says haven't been in office. Well, the Iranian president, who hadn't been in office for over a decade. Now, this comment came on a day when the Iranian president since 2021 dominated global headlines following his death in a helicopter crash on the Iranian border. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito sold shares of beer giant Anheuser-Busch as conservatives were ditching the Bud Light brewer over its partnership with a transgender social media influencer. On the same day Alito sold Anheuser-Busch, he then bought the same amount of stock in Molson Coors, a company with a history of facing political boycotts of its own. And a long shot effort by left leaning New York state lawmakers to curtail financial support for Israeli settlements has drawn a big name backer. And she isn't and doesn't have a vote in Albany. Representative Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, who rarely wades into state politics, publicly backed a bill today that could strip New York nonprofits of their tax exempt status if their funds are used to support Israel's military and settlement activity. And the California Assembly on Thursday voted to issue an official apology for the state's role in slavery and the systemic racism that ensued. But other bills meant to offer reparations or impact reparations died shortly afterwards in the California State Senate. The apology is a bill authored by Assemblymember Reggie Jones Sawyer that accepts responsibility for all of the harms and atrocities committed by the state. And that bill is a part of a hard-fought reparations legislative package that has made its way through the California State Legislature. This is the news, and this is Areva Martin in real time. And I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I am joined by Dr. Carlos Hill. He is a professor at the University of Oklahoma, and Dr. Raphael Sonnenschein. He is the executive director of the John Randolph Haynes and Dora Haynes Foundation. Also, today, we're going to be going behind the headlines, talking about those stories that have people talking, or stories that we think people should be talking about. And in case you missed this, 70 years after the Supreme Court delivered its landmark decision outlawing school segregation in that very, very famous case, Brown v. Board of Education, we are looking at what is the status of public schools. The unfortunate and sad reality is that nearly 7 in 10 Americans say more should be done to integrate schools across the nation. Now, this figure has steadily climbed from 30% in 1973 and is now at its apex. But today, we're going to take a deeper look at where are public schools, and we're going to show a startling number that schools today are as segregated as they were before the Brown v. Board of Education decision was rendered by the Supreme Court. Now, although this 7 in 10 Americans say that more should be done to integrate schools, the reality is they aren't doing very much. They being all of us as Americans, we're not doing very much to ensure that kids who go to public schools are going to integrated schools and to have to face the reality that today public schools are as segregated, meaning blacks go to certain schools and whites go to certain other schools, to learn that after 70 years of work after Brown v. Board of Education, things are pretty much the same. The status quo has pretty much been maintained. My good friend, Dr. David Eichhardt, is going to join us in hour two and help us make sense of this startling statistics and answer for us why. How come after the Brown v. Board of Education decision and so much work on integration, why are public schools still so segregated? And, what can we learn by the board's Brown v. Board decision, particularly about how we move forward and how we ever, if possible, achieve integrated public schools in this country. But before I bring on my guests, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. I had the honor last week. I was gone for the entire week. I want to thank my producer, Robert, and my guest host who held it down. I wasn't off on a frolic. I wasn't on a vacation on some exotic island. I was actually at Columbia University attending the graduations for both of my daughters who graduated from Columbia's law school and actually their JD MBA program. And I had the honor of giving a commencement speech at the Black graduation that was hosted by the Black Law Students Association at the law school. And it was an honor of my life to give that commencement address, particularly given that my two daughters were sitting in the audience and they got to introduce me. So it was a really proud moment for me and my entire family. Lots of us traveled from all over the country to be there. And despite all of the negative things we've heard about, what was happening at Columbia around the protest over the Gaza war, graduations did move forward, particularly those, all students had an opportunity to participate in at least one, if not more, commencement ceremonies. So again, people were worried that Columbia, who had announced that it was canceling this graduation, that maybe we had to cancel our big trip, but we were there. And if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll get to see all the pictures. And my speech is actually up on YouTube, the speech that I gave to those Black Law students. And on Sunday, our president was down in Atlanta at Morehouse College. This is graduation season, so you're going to see our president, our vice president, lots of congressional people, and lots of lawyers, civil rights lawyers like myself, giving speeches on college campuses. And I had a chance to read some excerpts of the speech that Biden gave to those Morehouse graduates. There was a lot of controversy, too, because some folks thought that Biden's appearance at Morehouse should be canceled. Again, a lot of students who have been actively involved in protests didn't want the president of the United States to be their commencement speaker. But I give the president of Morehouse a lot of credit because he says, look, I understand student protests. I understand the importance of protests to our democracy. But he said, I also understand the importance of having a sitting president give a commencement speech at a HBCU. He says that president's presence on that campus will send a message across the globe that HBCUs matter, that Morehouse College matters, and that Black students graduating from HBCUs also matter. And I couldn't agree with him more. And I think the president of the university or the president of Morehouse handled it perfectly by not canceling Biden. And I think Joe Biden did an excellent job in addressing the students. There were students who protest. From what I've read, there was a student who turned his back to Biden during the entire speech. And then the student who gave the speech for the students actually got up and called for the ceasefire and was critical of the Biden Harris administration's handling of the conflict in Palestine. And Biden accepted that peaceful protests are a part of, again, the bedrock of our universities. He agreed with the students that the deaths, the number of people who had died in Gaza was horrifying. And he agreed that there needed to be a peaceful end to the conflict. So I want to give, again, a big shout out to Morehouse and to President Biden for handling this matter so well. Those colleges that canceled their graduations and gave prevented students from having an opportunity to participate in what arguably is going to be the most important event in their educational careers. I just always felt that there was a way to handle it. There was a way to provide security. USC said it was canceling the graduation, and even Columbia, because of security concerns. So if Morehouse figured out a way to keep the president of the United States safe, clearly they could have figured out how to keep their keynote speakers safe. And President Biden had to give his speech amidst protest. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. And students should be allowed to protest. And two things can happen and be true at the same time. Commencement exercises or commencement events can move forward while students protest. They don't have to be mutually, they don't have to cancel each other out. You can have a graduation with protest and continue to acknowledge the contributions and the hard work of the students and acknowledge the tremendous sacrifices that they've made in order to graduate from whatever college or university they are at. So again, a big shout out to Morehouse and big shout out to the president of the United States for just showing the country, I think, how, two things we can have a split screen. We can have protesters, and we can also acknowledge students who've worked very hard to earn their degrees. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. First, thank you for your support of KBLA Talk 1580. We deeply appreciate you. So, I get asked all the time, Tavis, when are you going to bring back that State of the Black Union symposium you used to do? You know, the one where you had all those black intellectuals on stage every year and everybody watched all day live on C-SPAN? Yeah, I know the one.
Let's bring them back.
Well, I am pleased to tell you that if you go to KBLA1580.com right now, you can sign up to be in the audience here in Los Angeles when we go back live on C-SPAN with a stage full of black thinkers and influencers for a historic conversation. America has never seen a stage full of black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's going down Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. Once we reach capacity, you'll have to watch us on C-SPAN. But if you want to be in the room when we go live from Los Angeles, Tuesday, June 18th, head to KBLA1580.com right now to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. With KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
I believe up there. Hey!
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
So you just used bug spray in your home. Now what? Well, between the waiting for things to dry up and keeping your family away from the mess, it hits you. You could have used Zevo. Unlike other bug sprays that stick around, Zevo goes from kill to clean in seconds. Plus, it's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly, bug deadly.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative.
Rafe are joining me in this hour. So, Dr. Hill, Biden goes to Morehouse and gives the commencement speech yesterday, Sunday, and he does so. Nobody's shot, nobody's, life is endangered. So, what are we to make of these universities like USC and Columbia that said they were canceling their graduations because of security concerns? If Morehouse, which is much, much, much smaller than these other larger institutions, figured out a way to keep Biden, the president, safe and students safe while he gave that speech, are we to believe this was just some made up, excuses by these universities? Or how come they couldn't figure out how to safely have the commencement events take place while allowing the students to protest? Biden had to give that speech with one student with his back turned to him and fist raised in the air throughout the entire time he was talking.
Yeah. This has become such a, well, first and foremost, Areva, thank you for having me on the show. This has become such a huge issue, and it should be a huge issue because, as I've said many times, college students on our campuses are conscious for this Israel-Palestine catastrophe. It's not an issue, it's a catastrophe. But the reason for USC, Columbia versus Morehouse is simple. It's the political pressure. We saw the Columbia president lose her job, pressure on Harvard, pressure on UPenn, all these, maybe it was UPenn, not Columbia, but we've seen pressure. And so that is why these convocations and graduations have been canceled. The political pressure from donors, the political pressure from within, that going forward as we have is not going to be possible. And so in some of these instances, university presidents have decided that they should not hold these, but that's the wrong decision, because I think you're right. If Morehouse can have it, then the other ones could have, but they chose not to because of the political pressure. And that's what we got to focus on.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, like I said, I was up, Morningside Heights, Harlem, 3 or 4 days around Columbia, and they held what was so bizarre. They have this field that's, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 minutes away from its main campus. And they basically held all of their graduations at this main field. And they were able to do that. I don't even think I saw a protester the entire time. And there were no incidents. There were no police. There was nothing. It was just a bunch of happy families and happy students. Now they didn't go forward with the main commencement where they would have brought everyone onto the main campus, but they had all the schools' graduations. The undergraduates had their graduation, the journalism school, the medical school, the law school, the graduate schools of business and education. So it just really seemed like a big cop out. And as you said, those schools giving in to the pressure from the GOP as a way of trying to appease them, because like I said, I was there, the epicenter of the protest, and I didn't see any protesters. And everyone was figuring out, well, why did they cancel these kids' graduation? And they didn't really even, like I said, they didn't cancel everything. They just kind of shifted everything. So it was really quite unfortunate. And we know how news cycles go, Ray. I've not seen the protests even occupying the news in the way that, they were a couple of weeks ago, which again suggests that these schools just acted hastily without giving a lot of thought to it. And one of the things Biden said in his speech, which I thought again was so brilliant, I read excerpts from it. He says, look, leadership requires you to make hard choices and to deal with hard issues. And he says, look, I call for a ceasefire, but this is more complicated than just a ceasefire, that he's working towards a bigger solution of a two-state solution. And sometimes it's just explaining that. I mean, this notion that somehow the Biden-Harris administration is not impacted. And he even said his family was aggrieved by the number of people that have been killed in Palestine. So do we need the president out, Rafe, doing more, being more of the explainer in chief?
As best as possible. I was really struck by the Morehouse situation. That was so different. And it's a reminder that this is really Joe Biden's political home, is his interaction, even when it's a tense interaction with the African American community. It's what saved him in South Carolina in his first run, his successful run for president. It's a place where he touches base and has a comfort level where he can talk with protesters. And, some people feel real threatened when they're getting protested against. He seems to engage. Look, he deals with Republicans in the State of the Union address who are screaming at him. So this is more like people with whom he has some sympathy for their point of view. It was a real nice change to see him having that interaction with college students, and just a reminder that that's an important story, that speech. And he did talk about a ceasefire. You don't have to persuade Joe Biden to be for a ceasefire. He's out trying to mobilize countries around it. He's pressuring Israel. He's pressuring his allies, etc. I found it kind of a hopeful event because it incorporated protest. It wasn't kind of sanitized. And the fact that the students didn't stand up, which is their right, they don't have to stand up, that they made their statement that way. It was clear as a bell. It was a healthy day, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was really powerful because, like you said, Rafe, both things happened. The students were able to protest, and I think, Carlos, the president made the right call. Like, you guys are students. It's my job as the leader here to do what I know is that's going to benefit you. And you may not see the benefit of having the president of the United States speak at your commencement now. And a bunch of my friends and I, we were trying to remember who was our commencement speech. We couldn't even remember the person's name. So, he understands that 10 years from now, as history is written, these students would have had something that most students throughout this country would have never, ever experienced. And I think that was pretty powerful, but you're not seeing the speech and that whole dynamic played out in the media. That's just, unfortunately, Carlos, not the things that they want to show in the media. It's just not sexy. It's not exciting. They much rather show the clashes and, the talk to the students that were so adamantly opposed to Biden. That was kind of disturbing to me that we didn't see more of the speech.
Yeah, I mean, I think for this situation, it's the Biden is behind in the polls. Biden needs to do something to re-engage, to re-galvanize Black voters. And the coverage that I saw emphasized some of the Black students with his back turned to them. And even though you said there was a convocation and a ceremony, you wouldn't have known it by how it was reported because they just focused on the people who had their back turned to Biden and their response to his speech. But that's the story that we have been telling, that we want to tell. But I think you're right that I think there's more than meets the eye in terms of people's opinions on whether it's the chaos, what people think is chaos. I think it's democracy, but chaos happening. There are people who are taking this as an opportunity to create crisis and chaos. But the students on these campuses that are trying to say, we are invested in Israeli, we are invested in this conflict in ways that we are uncomfortable. Let's do something about it because it's preventable. Just in the same way this catastrophe in Gaza is preventable. Aid can get to them, but it's being prevented. That's what that's the conscience that the students are bringing. And we have to have enough compassion to listen. So I think that you're right. The story hasn't been where it should be. It's been focused otherwise because of our news media. But truly, the story it should be where the students wanted it to be, which is compassion for.
And, you know, I got to give Victor Black, a shout out too, because I was listening to him early on in the morning, CNN Saturday before the speech, and he had some political pundits on, a Republican and a Democrat. And, you know, he said, we're all talking about how Biden is going to get this chilly reception in Morehouse and how some of the students wanted him to be canceled. And he asked the Republican guy, he says, well, could Trump even be invited? Or, you know, is it, we're criticizing Biden. At least he got the invitation. You know, Trump has never, ever been invited to speak at a Black college. And the guy said, no, but Trump went to the Chick-fil-A across the street from Morehouse. And as if that was, you know, a substitute for being invited. So we hold Biden to this just sometimes really lofty, you know, we these goals are, you know, we put him on this, we hold him to accountable in ways that we give Donald Trump a pass. And the man literally said, no, Donald Trump went to the Chick-fil-A and some students came out and gave him a warm reception. And Victor had to remind him those were paid students who were there to give him a warm reception. And being at the Chick-fil-A is not the equivalence of being invited to speak at 157-year-old historic Morehouse College. So, you know, so Trump gets a pass, even though, you know, nobody ever would invite him to give an address at their college. So it's the hypocrisy and, like I said, the false equivalency is sometimes nauseating. When we come forward, we got to talk about nauseating, and that's Justice Samuel Alito and what has he been up to with some of these symbols, and his stock purchases even are telling us a whole lot about, you know, where he is at and where he's thinking on a lot of these culture issues. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Mayor Eric Adams is considering revoking the key to New York City he gave to Sean Diddy Combs after video surfaced of Combs assaulting his ex-girlfriend, known as Cassie. Adams said the video is deeply disturbing and a far cry from the celebration in Times Square last year. Ex-Trump lawyer Michael Cohen is admitting he stole from the Trump Organization. Cohen made the admission he stole $30,000 from the company while on the stand today in Trump's hush money case in New York City. The defense is now calling its witnesses. And today in music history, in 1967, Jimi Hendrix signed his first American record contract with Reprise Records. The African-American musical genius and icon and his band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, had already released records on the Polydor and track labels in Britain. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
A stall downtown continues to block the right shoulder of the 110 North at 3rd Fort Street interchange, and heavy delays are now running stopped up to 10 minutes from the 10. Back in Pasadena's 210 West before Lake Avenue, watch for an accident on the right shoulder with a slight heavy delay that continues from Sierra Madre Villa Avenue, Madre Street interchange. A 2-car accident on the 91 West in Paramount before Downey Avenue is on the right shoulder, with traffic running heavy at the moment from Artesia Boulevard, Bloomfield interchange. And be advised over in Anaheim's 91 East after State College Boulevard, a crash is occupying 4 right lanes, and at moments, CHP will temporarily stop all lanes, causing stop traffic at the moment over 45 minutes from Tustin Avenue.
Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their end-to-end solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from your Indeed dashboard. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NBA appears to be approaching a new level of parity. The Denver Nuggets Game 7 loss to Minnesota Sunday night means the NBA will not have a repeat champion for the 5th straight year. Over the past 20 years, only 2 teams have won back-to-back titles, Golden State in 2018 and 2019, and the Lakers in 2009 and 2010. There also appears to be a changing of the guard and star power in the NBA postseason. Denver's loss sent Nikola Jokic home. Jokic was the last remaining MVP among active players still competing in the playoffs. Check out this list of active NBA players who have won an MVP but are at home watching the playoffs. LeBron, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Derrick Rose. The Angels are back in action tonight at Houston. A win puts the Angels at 500 on the road. The Dodgers are at home against Arizona. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king. Climate is king. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and Dr. Carlos Hill and Dr. Raphael Sonnenschein are joining me in this hour. We're breaking down today's trending and breaking news. And in hour two, we're going to be talking about the Brown v. Board of Education decision that was supposed to desegregate public schools. The reality is, based on some new reporting, schools today are as segregated as they were before the Brown v. Board of Education decision. Black history professor, Dr. David Eichhardt is going to join me in an hour or two to help us understand how is it that some 70 years later, schools are equally segregated. Before we start talking about Justice Alito, though, Rafe, I just was perusing my news sites to see what folks were saying about Biden's speech. And here's a Fox News headline. It says, Black voters rip Biden's race-baiting commencement speech as his support dwindles. Party of hopelessness. Another headline says, did Biden's Morehouse graduation speech break tension with Black voters? Black voters review Biden's performance as Trump surges in polls. I'm voting for Trump. All right, Ray, what are we to make of all of these headlines recently? And they've been coming pretty fast and furiously about these huge number of black voters who are with Trump. And now this headline, the speech was so horrible, they called it race baiting and called the Democrats the party of hopelessness. Is this going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy where folks keep hearing about how black folks are flocking to the Republican Party and then it becomes a reality?
I've never seen evidence that African American voters wait for permission from Fox News in order to make decisions about their voting. In addition, it's all nonsense. I mean, it's all complete nonsense. Now, that's not to say that there aren't generational issues that are going to affect him, but you're not talking about a wave to Trump. You're talking about people who are feeling reluctant to vote for Joe Biden, and that's quite a difference. And eventually, what tends to happen is people begin to focus on the stakes as it gets to November, October, September, and begin to make a really tough choice. I think that's a little bit different. Remember, an unenthusiastic vote counts exactly the same as an enthusiastic vote. They're one each. And the polls are they're not really telling you very much. I mean, Biden would have done terribly in the South Carolina primary just a few months ago, where most of the Democratic electorate, the largest majority, are African American voters, and he won overwhelmingly. So does that mean that he doesn't have things to work on? But he has a relationship from which to work. Doesn't mean the relationship is signed, sealed, and delivered, but he has a place to start that Trump doesn't have. As you're pointing out, Trump doesn't have an entree into the conversation, and he can be a little funny. He talked about Kamala Harris being from a different college, and that was very funny. It got kind of a chuckle from the audience, but he implied the next president, being she's his vice president. So I don't know. I'm paying very little attention to polls at this point, paying a lot of attention to elections, the short elections that are happening, where Democrats are vastly overperforming what the polls are showing. So anyway, it's going to work out somehow, but it won't look like it looks today, I would say.
Yeah, some of this stuff you have to laugh at it, Carlos. It says they accuse Biden of race baiting while his support in the black community continues to dissipate ahead of November. New York resident Lou Valentino reacted to Biden's remarks during Fox and Friends, accusing him of trying to set black Americans back after his controversial speech. Race baiter, Valentino told Lawrence Jones on Monday. It's tough to hear that because imagine you're going to college for 4 years, ready to hit the world, start a career, and this guy is trying to set you back literally. I don't know civil rights. I don't know what's going on with the Democrats. This role that they're trying to play, instead of pulling up and saying, well, here we go. This is your time. Congratulations. Let's kill it. Let's do our best. Nah, you know what, Lawrence? They don't love you like that. It's just so funny. I'm laughing at this, Dr. Hill, but it really is, they go and find this like one voice that says, oh no, I'm with Biden. I mean, I'm with Trump. And then they run this headline that says his vote amongst blacks is dwindling and call Democrats the party of hopelessness, and says the black vote has slipped 7%. So they come up with these numbers. Who knows how they come up with them? But I'm with Ray. Angela Alsobrook won her seat, or won the Democratic primary in Maryland. A very, very tough congressional race against a well-funded, self-funded, billionaire, white, long-term Dem. And I think the support that Angela got and, her winning of that race is, I think, a really good sign for the Democrats. What do you make of that? To the prospect now that there may be two black women, one from Delaware and one from Maryland, going to the U.S. Senate?
Well, those are great outcomes, Areva. But I would say that trend also helps us to put into context why Donald Trump is saying and doing, and why Fox News and others are doing and saying what they're saying. If Joe Biden was losing black voters, why are you focusing resources in a place where he's losing voters? Why aren't you focusing then on places where he may be actually stronger, and you're trying to remove votes from that place. If he's truly losing votes, your campaign is flawed, right? Why are you getting Fox and others to jump on something that's already losing steam? You're actually giving attention to this by saying he really needs to do something about his Black support. I mean, like, do you just see, like, it's just weird that he would do this. And so
Yeah, and the Chick-fil-A, what do you make of that? I mean, that's so offensive to say the
Well,
man went to Chick-fil-A.
I mean, I think Areva, what the reason why a lot of people don't watch politics anymore is because of this kind of thing. Like, this is just fodder. There's nothing serious or substantive about it. It's just thrown in there to confuse people, to make people like just react almost. And so, I mean, I don't really want to talk about it that much, but at the same time, this is a strategy. This is just, in so many ways, what Donald Trump has become. This is what his movement is about. Just continue to fling things against the wall as much as possible, and people forget what we were even arguing about, what the conversation even started with. And at the end, we just kind of walk away confused and just kind of go back to our corners. Nothing resolved, right?
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is somehow still free. Like, it's just
That part, right? That part. He's still out there roaming. Here was his joke, Rafe. You mentioned the joke. They said Biden drew some laughter when he said he had no doubt that a Morehouse man will be president one day, but added the caveat, just after an AKA from Howard. So that was his little joke about a Morehouse man, but it's got to be after, this Black woman from Howard becomes the president. So the speech had some levity, and they got pictures of the students protesting. But yeah, it's almost, Rafe, like the politics has become a national sports, almost like a prize fight, right? And you don't want one side to have such a dominance over the other side because everybody tunes out. So you've got to keep them close, and you've got to keep one up one week and one up the next week. So you've got to keep creating these false equivalencies and have somebody literally say that a man who went to Chick-fil-A was the equivalent of being invited to be the commencement speaker at this storied university, Morehouse, and give Trump credit for being at a fast food restaurant across the street from the college, as if somehow that is equivalent. And it's because those false equivalencies keep happening. It's almost like normalized. The guy said that with a straight face, and Victor and this other pundit said, "Are you serious? Like, are you insulting our intelligence? You're telling us that the man stops his motorcade to go eat some fried chicken, and that is supposed to be similar to himself having the courage to go into a Black university or reach out to a Black university and try to really court Black voters in an intelligent, respectful way, rather than the way he does, talking about mug shots and criminal records and gold tennis shoes."
Dr. Hill made a profound point here about nonsense, which is the prevalence of nonsense is a real problem for democracy, because nonsense can be entertaining for a quick minute, but it also makes you wonder what the hell is going on. What does it all mean? It doesn't mean anything. And Joe Biden has the task of being not nonsense, but occasionally funny, which is just fine. But when you're competing with nonsense, if you hear some of Trump's rally speeches, he's actually become fairly incoherent, but he still gets laughs because it sounds like it's funny somehow. So the nonsense piece is really worrisome. And the task for Biden is to cut through that and focus on things, focus on the rights that are at stake. And the media tends to be drawn to nonsense and also to horse races. And a wiser person than me said, they're great at telling you the odds, but not the stakes of the election. And if ever there was a year where the stakes are more important than the odds, it's this one. But all you hear about is strategy. Is Biden going to win more African American votes through going to Morehouse? Well, politics is about relationships and trust. It's not about a single thing that wins you votes. Only in the sports narrative you're describing, Areva, would that be all that that's about.
Yeah, one of the things that happened over week two, Carlos, that we shouldn't gloss over is the fact that the president agreed to debate Donald Trump in June. That's going to be the earliest presidential debate on record. Usually these debates happen well after September, leading up to November. And of course, people are saying, well, Biden had to agree in June because his poll numbers look so horrible. He needed to try to turn those poll numbers around. What do you make of Biden agreeing to a early June debate with Trump?
I'm not sure. I'm certainly glad that it's happening. My fear, honestly, was that we would not have a debate, and that all we would have is Trump's rhetoric, or the parts of his rhetoric that the conservative media wants us to hear, and or the sort of more mainstream leftist media wants us to hear. When we can actually hear the ridiculousness come out of his mouth, in prime time, maybe some of the voters who are still on the fence will say, wait a minute, this guy just said what he said in Pennsylvania and in Florida. He actually said that in front of the American people when he knows they're all watching, or they'll be watching later. I want that moment, or those moments, because again, when he's giving these speeches and he's making these jokes, people can easily say, well, he's just like Joe Biden made jokes about the Kamala Harris being president, or there being a female president first before. Like, that's what Trump is doing. So don't try to make an equivalency. Like, that word, I'm tired of that word too.
Yeah.
So
no, hold that thought for me, Carlos. When we come back, I want to further hear what you have to say about the June debate, and Rafe, get your opinion too about whether this is a good thing or not for the Biden-Harris administration. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
City of Los Angeles tenants, verify your Emergency Renters Assistance Program status today if you applied for the program. Tenants approved for rental assistance are protected from eviction for non-payment of rent through May 31st, 2024. And it's illegal under law for landlords to refuse rental assistance to you based on your source of income. Refusing assistance can be used as an affirmative defense in an eviction case. So check your application status now at housing.lacity.org. That's housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home. It's time to upgrade your wellness. Experience Unboxed Wellness Your Way, presented by Health Matters Clinic, to unlock access to tools, tips, and local resources designed to empower you. Whether you're drawn to an energizing hip-hop yoga session or eager to boost your business or personal financial well-being, Unboxed has something tailored just for you. Get your tickets to join us on Friday, May 31st, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. by visiting www.healthmatters.clinic. Free event sponsored by Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
All right, Rafe, what's your take on the June debate, presidential debate? Never done in the history of this country before. Have we had presidential debate so early in the election season? Do you think it helps or hurts Biden?
Well, it hurts if Donald Trump actually debates, which I think is at least as likely as his testifying in the case in Manhattan, which he says he's dying to do, but of course won't. What it shows is the theory the Biden people are working on, which is a pretty good theory, which is to tease and be aggressive against, call Trump a loser, surprise him with a challenge, take the aggressive on it. Trump quickly accepted it, which his advisors can't believe he accepted it under the terms that Biden had. If he doesn't debate, then Biden just makes fun of him for the next few months. If he does debate, he makes fun of him in the debate. And I think it's a smart thing that basically just when it looks like everybody's saying you're not getting anywhere, he takes an aggressive move. It was the State of the Union, then this. You don't have to do it every day. Just have to do it every few months to show your campaign is actually on a track. His theory, by the way, is that nobody's paying any attention to the election right now. So all the advisors in the press that are telling him he should do this, fire this one, that one, he's saying, hey, it hasn't even started yet. We're not even at the first round of the playoffs, for God's sake. And they've got tons of money put aside. And around August and September, they're gonna launch a pretty massive campaign around the issues that favor them. So he just has to hang in there. There's no votes cast. He's not winning or losing.
No, but do you have any concerns, Carlos, that Biden, like Trump, both of them are prone to gaffes, and now we know that Trump makes his share, if not more, and his memory seems to be quite failing him at times, and he goes into this word salad, unintelligible talk. But do you have any concerns that Biden may say some things that might damage him? Yeah, not permanently, but could be a problem. I think you're muted, Carlos. We're not hearing you.
I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm so sorry, Reva.
That's okay.
I have some concerns. I have some
Okay.
that there will be a gap. But remember, Areva, this is an existential election. He can make all the gaffes he wants because we cannot elect Donald Trump. So he can forget everything as long as he knows his name and as long as he knows he's president. I'm going to vote for him because the opposite, if I vote for Donald Trump, that is voting actually counter to the interests of this country and not just my interest, to the interests of this country. So gaffes, yes, they're going to happen. And I know he's going to make some, but that's okay because the opposing choice is not a choice for us.
So what do you think of this, Carlos? I was just texting with a friend about the Biden speech. She says she thought he was pandering. I'm like, give me a break. If he didn't go, you would say he's ignoring Black people. So, like, did you hear anything that was pandering?
No, but go back to the narrative. I want my dear brother Rafi to speak to this. Go back to the narrative of he is failing. His campaign is failing. Black voters are leaving him. And so, of course, if that's the narrative that you have, of course, him being there is going to be that he's pandering. He's telling jokes. He's trying to woo them. Yes, if that's your narrative. But if as Rafi has said, black voters, politics is about relationships and trust. Ain't nobody trusting Donald Trump. So okay.
I could not agree more with Dr. Hill on that. I mean, pandering. This is a friendly audience that he's spent years developing and that has learned certain things about him that go beyond gaffes. And I also want to go back to what you said a minute ago, Dr. Hill. He ought to say, I may make some gaffes in this, but by the end of this election, if I win, you're still going to have a country. So forgive me, you know, so I'll goof up a little bit. How's that for, but you've made me think you ought to write them a letter.
I think you writing a letter might be better.
Embrace the gap. I like that. Just embrace it. And the other thing I'm going to tell my friend is, it's an election. You're supposed to go to try to get votes. Like, what do you want the man to do? He's in an election. So this notion that he's pandering to his base, hello, yes, that's called good, election activity. That's called good campaigning. We beat Hillary to death because we said she didn't go to battleground states enough. She didn't spend enough time talking to voters. And that's what I'm saying about Biden. He just gets hit for anything he does. If he goes left, he should have gone right. If he goes right, he should have gone left. He's at Morehouse College. I wish I'd had a sitting president at my college graduation. Maybe I could remember who gave the speech. I would have remembered if it was someone that important. And I know a lot of those Black parents and students who otherwise would never have an opportunity to step foot in a White House. Some of us have had the privilege of doing so, but I know many people who have not. That was probably a highlight for them to be at a graduation with the President of the United States. So if it's pandering, then pander on. If that's what it's going to take to win this election, go about your business, keep pandering, because we need to win this election, and we need to get Black young voters like these graduates of Morehouse to understand the assignment and to stay committed to, as you say, Dr. Hill, preserving our democracy and our country. We're out of time. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to spend a Monday afternoon with the both of you. When we come forward and we're talking about that Brown v. Board of Education decision and how come our schools are still segregated after 70 years. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.